Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the REDX Podcast. My name is Haley Johnson. I am going to be the host today. I'm so excited that you're here. Of course, on the podcast, we bring the best of the best onto our podcast to talk about how to be successful in real estate. And we brought on Emily Peckham for this episode because her specialty is for sale by owners, which is amazing. And she shares how she's been so successful with them. In her second year in real estate, she took 50 listings just from for sale by owners and has continued to be successful with them. She shares her objection handlers, her scripts, her opening scripts. She shares her follow-up regimen, how she's so successful, her routines, things like that, so that you can replicate them and be successful for sale by owners as well. It's an amazing conversation, and I'm excited to get into it. Before we do that, I do want to remind you guys that we have a REDX newsletter. We send a newsletter weekly, every single Monday morning, to our audience. So filled with content of blogs, ebooks, podcasts, things like this about how to be successful in real estate. So there's different topics, different pieces of content that come out weekly that we share in there. So if you're interested in that value, you can go to redx.com/newsletter and you can put your email in and we'll email you every single week with our new content. And you can stay up to date with what's happening with REDX and all the good things that's coming out. But other than that, I will stop talking so that we can get into our conversation with Emily, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the REDX Podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Haley Johnson. I'm excited to get into today's conversation with Emily Peckham. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we're excited to have you. You're a first-time guest. So for anyone that has watched the podcast for as long as we've been around, you have not seen Emily's face. But we're excited to bring you on and talk about for sale by owners today. Emily, for those that don't know you, if they haven't stumbled across some of your other content or your classes or anything, could you give us just a little brief introduction into who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Haley said, my name is Emily Peckham and I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I actually live 20 minutes outside of Nashville in Franklin, Tennessee, which if any of you have visited, it is just like one of America's quintessential small towns. I think it gets rated like all the time of like best small towns to visit. We absolutely love it here. I've been here since I graduated college. My husband was in the music industry. So when we got married, I joined him out here. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. And when I was in my last semester at college, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. My mom was self-employed. My husband was self-employed. And I saw the flexibility and the freedom that they had. And I was always really, really driven. Like I loved sales and I worked really hard. I was a college soccer player. And so when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, I was like, you know what? Like, I had a finance degree. I can't imagine like entering the corporate world and working your traditional, 9-to-5 job. My aunt was a successful realtor in Chicago. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to get my real estate license. And I did not know anybody in Nashville. I graduated college in May of 2018. Got married in June of 2018, moved to Nashville in July of 2018, and then got my real estate license in August of 2018. I was 23 years old at the time, just getting started and didn't know a single person other than my husband. And so I was like, all right, I want to get into real estate, but I don't have anybody to sell houses to. And so I walked into a class that was being taught at my market center. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams. And there was a class being taught on for sale by owners. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, the perfect fit for me. These are people who are literally raising their hand and they're saying, I want to sell my house. But they don't see the value in having a realtor represent them, or they don't want to pay the commission, whatever it may be. And so I just had to find a way to convince them to hire me. And so I did not know what the heck I was doing, didn't have any scripts memorized, but I just took action immediately. And I listed my first for sale by owner within 2 weeks of getting my real estate license. My first year in 2019, I sold 36 homes. 30 of those were for sale by owners. And then in my second year in real estate, I sold 104 homes and 50 of those were for sale by owners. So that's kind of just been my bread and butter ever since then. I have a lot of fun working with FSBOs.
Amazing. I love that you point out that you can be successful even if you move to an entirely new area. And like, so many people get into real estate because they have a huge database and it's easy to come by referrals because people know them and stuff like that. And so coming into a market that you don't know anyone in, it's got to be daunting. But I love that you picked up FSBOs and that was something. I mean, anybody, no matter how long you've been in a market, can pick up for sale by owners and find success from them. So that's awesome. I know you kind of answered this, but I want to dive deeper into why specifically for sale by owners. And because, I mean, that is kind of what you stuck with, right? Were there any other leads that you prospected, or tell me why it was just FSBOs?
Yeah. So, I mean, the main reason is just because I didn't have that large sphere of influence, like you talked about. And they were people who were already raising their hand and saying, I want to sell my house. So they were very hot leads. So I call them for that reason. It takes very little money to prospect for sale by owners. You're not having to pay for Zillow ads. It's essentially free. And it doesn't take a whole lot of time to call for sale by owners either. There's in my market about anywhere between 3 and 5 new for sale by owners every single day. So between both and reaching out to new for sale by owners and then also following up with for sale by owners that I had contacted in the past, I mean, we're talking about 30 minutes to 45 minutes per day max. So I just think it's a great source of business for, seasoned agents or new agents as well. I have now since grown my business into referral-based business as well. And then I do circle prospect for all of my listings. And so I use REDX for, geo leads to be able to circle prospect as well. But for sale by owners still remains a good chunk of my business, and then referral business as well.
Awesome. Cool. So then talk to me a little bit about your routine when you were prospecting FSBOs predominantly, especially like in the beginning when they're literally like 50% plus of your business. What was your routine like? Like when were you calling them and stuff like that?
Yeah. So I typically was up around, 6:30, 7 o'clock. I like to start my morning with obviously coffee and then gratitude and affirmations. And I like to journal. I hit the gym and then I am on the phones like every single morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm pretty religious about starting because, most agents are starting, in that 8:30, 9 o'clock window. If I can start right at 8, then a lot of times I'm the first person to call that for sale by owner. And you would not believe the number of for sale by owners who I list and they specifically say, you were the very first person to contact me. I've now had 100 people contact me since then. And I am so impressed that you were the very first. I want to hire you. Now, obviously, like being the first doesn't automatically, guarantee that you're going to get the listing, but it does go a long way. So that was a huge part of my business too, is just making sure that I'm really consistent. Every single day I'm calling, and I'm calling at 8 a.m. sharp. Now, if I didn't contact them, I'm not just going to give up. I'm going to call again at noon, and then I'm going to call again at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I will call them every single day until I get a hold of them. I once had a for sale by owner. I called her 16 times, and she never answered the phone. And gosh, probably 2 or 3 weeks later, she contacted me and she said, hey, this is Tracy. I'm the owner of the home on 123 Main Street. And I'd like for you to list my home. And I was like taken back because I'd never talked to this lady before. And so I'm like looking up her, like making sure I hadn't like forgotten our conversation or something. And I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like, unless I'm forgetting something, I don't believe that you and I have ever actually spoken. And she was like, you're right. You called me 16 times. And I believe that if you are going to work that hard to get a hold of me, you're probably going to work pretty hard to sell my home. So when can you meet? So yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff happens all the time. So I'm very consistent in follow up as well.
That's awesome. And because I think so many agents fall off where like maybe they try a couple times and then are like, okay, on to the next, whatever. I'm not going to get business obviously from that. And
Mm-hmm.
on the 16th call is when you finally got a call back, which is amazing and shows to like for sale by owners aren't hiring you because they don't see the value in you, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
if you are calling them and you're being consistent, I love that she saw that you were going to be hardworking. And if you
Yep.
were going to help her so much, like, yeah, of course she was going to hire you because you called me
Yeah.
16 times. Like, now get my home sold, you know?
Yep, exactly. To your point, there's this statistic that 80% of realtors stop calling for sale by owners after 3 weeks. So if you're just calling longer than 3 weeks, you're following up better than 80% of real estate agents who are out there. So
Yeah, and then your competition just gets less and less the more that you stick with it. And
yep.
I think that's great because you're right. Like people will appreciate that you're the first caller, but they'll also appreciate that
Mhm.
you're the last, right? That you are
Yeah.
still following up and making sure that you can help them out. So I'm
Mhm.
curious when you first started calling for sale by owners, and I hear this all the time working at REDX and people that buy for sale by owners or even expireds, which are kind of similar in the
Mhm.
fact that they're very hot leads
Mhm.
that they get pretty bad call reluctance and they have fear right before they
Mhm.
call, so much to the point where people like buy our product and then don't use it because
Mhm.
of that fear, right? And that keeps them from calling. So I'm curious if you had any of that and if you did, like how you overcame it.
I had to be honest with you, I did not. Cold
That's
calling
great.
and reaching out has never really scared me. I worked for like a top producing agent at State Farm while I was in college, and like I literally just did cold calls for her. And I feel like that was an even harder like cold call than calling a first sale by owner. So I was ready for that. And then I used to go door to door, selling like for fundraising for soccer, entertainment books, and stuff like that. I used to tell my mom if I can just get them to answer the phone, then I can get them to buy something from me. So I've always had like that mindset of like, I'm not afraid of being told no. And I think you really do have to develop that mindset if you are going to call for sale by owners because they're not always friendly. But I like to remind myself and remind other people like, okay, we as realtors, we get a lot of phone calls from insurance agents trying to sell us insurance. I get a lot of phone calls from lenders trying to have coffee with me, title companies, whatever it may be. Gosh, I probably get at least 5 of those types of phone calls per day on top of all the other services that were being sold. And I don't really like it either. Now imagine that that's times 50 and you're getting 50 phone calls a day from real estate agents. Like you're probably not going to be super happy either. So you have to give them, the benefit of the doubt. Like they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So don't take it personally, if they are not super happy to hear from you. And I always like to lighten the mood, by saying, hey, this is Emily Peckham. I am another real estate agent calling you. Am I lucky number 10? And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I have heard from so many real estate agents. And I always joke with them. I'm like, yeah, what you don't realize when you list your home for sale by owner, all the crazy realtors start calling you. And that always gets them laughing and it kind of starts the conversation. It lets their guard down. And I'm able to get a lot further into that phone call. And I like to think of it as just a conversation. Like I obviously have scripts that I've used and developed over the years, but you and I were just talking about pickleball before this started. If they ask me how my weekend was or vice versa, I might start talking to them about pickleball and turns out they play pickleball too. We might spend 5 minutes talking about pickleball before we get into me closing for an appointment. So when people watch the live calls that I'll sometimes do, that's like the number one thing that people realize when I'm calling them is it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid of how they might respond.
Yeah, I think you can build it up in your head to this monster that it really isn't. And
Mhm.
the more that you feed that monster and you put off your calls, it's just making it worse. When you're right, like I've watched so many prospecting sessions and things, and all it is like, oh hey, and like you're talking to another person and you're having a business conversation and you find
Mhm.
commonalities and things like that. And it's
Yeah.
really not as scary as we build it up in our heads.
Yep.
And some people, like you said, like that hasn't bothered you. Some people it doesn't at all, and they can just get on and like, and that's what's cool is you can develop that the more that you
Mhm.
prospect. I've seen so many people
Yes.
who have started so afraid, and then the more you call, that little voice in your head that's scared and is full of fear goes away over time.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
can learn to overcome the fear. You just got to get on the phone. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I was gonna ask you your like introductory or your opening script, but was that
Yeah.
basically your opening script that you always give?
So that's like, yeah, that's the very first thing that I say. Do you want to kind of have like a little live role play with me real quick?
Let's
You can
do
be a
it.
for sale by owner.
Of
All right.
course. Let's.
Today's podcast is brought to you by REDX for Sale by Owner Leads, one of the best lead types to add to your prospecting toolbox. Here's why. First, you know FSBO leads have a high urgency to sell because they're actively attempting to sell on their own right now. Second, many for sale by owners incorrectly price their home and don't know how to effectively market it. That's why they need your agent experience to get their home sold fast and at the best possible price. And finally, REDX delivers the best and newest for sale by owner lead data every single day before any other lead service. This means that you can get a hold of FSBOs before other agents do and increase your chances of listing their home. If you're interested in prospecting for sale by owner leads, sign up today at redx.com/podcast and save $150 on your setup fee. Your business will thank you.
Okay. Ring, ring, ring. I'm calling for Haley.
This is she.
Haley, this is Emily Peckham with Keller Williams. I am another real estate agent calling you. Am I lucky number 10?
Yeah, I've had probably close to 20 calls this morning. So
Oh my gosh. Well, Haley, you know what? I try not to sound like all the rest of the real estate agents who are calling you. I know you're getting a lot of phone calls. First of all, I just wanted to ask, where y'all moving to? It's a beautiful home.
we're relocating to Texas. That's where I'm from. So we're going home.
Okay. So you're moving back to be closer to family, it sounds like?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. How soon are you looking to be in Texas?
Well, probably within the next 3 to 6 months would be ideal.
Okay.
We're not in like a super huge rush, but it's still time frame.
Okay. Yeah. So about 3 to 6 months. And Haley, like I said, I try not to sound like all the rest of the real estate agents who are calling you, but I did want to ask you, if for some reason things didn't work out for a sale by owner, how long might you wait before you'd interview an agent?
Probably if I had to put a number out there, a month or two.
Okay. About a month. Okay. Perfect. And Haley, if you're like most for sale by owners that I talk to, I'm assuming that commission is the main reason that y'all are doing it for sale by owner to save some money.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the math. It would save me quite a bit of money. So
Hey,
that's why.
I am all about saving money too. So I completely understand. Let me ask you this. If there was a way that I could show you that I could sell the property for you and net you more money than you could selling the home by owner, even after my commission is paid, is that something that you'd be interested in just looking at?
I mean, the other agents that have called me have said something similar. I would like to try it out on my own just to see if I can sell it on my own, because that would be ideal. But I mean, of course, like if you're going to make me the most money, I would be interested in a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Haley, I've got availability tomorrow at 4:30 or 6 o'clock, which is better for you.
4:30.
Okay, I'll see you at 4:30. That's the script.
I like it.
A little too
it's
nice
not
to me, though.
I know. I was like, I was literally thinking about that. I was like, okay, what can I say now? And then I was like, oh no, she got me. I'm just all right. And then I folded. What are some other
That's funny.
well, I like that you addressed the objection before I even said it, because obviously that's the most common for sell by owner objection is the commission, of course. But what other like big objections do you get? If I'm sure people say, do you have a buyer? Or if we list, we'll use a friend. That's what I should have said, but I didn't.
Yeah, we have a friend in business.
Yeah, like
so
what other?
And you kind of brought one objection up, like, or you kind of said, we've heard that before. So that's one that I get. And you also said you would just kind of want to try it this way for a little while. But notice that, like you said, but at the end you said, but of course, if you can net me more money, then I'd like to have a conversation about it. I didn't even feel like it was worth addressing those first two objections. I'm just closing for the appointment. Now, if you bring it up again and you say, well, I really want to wait 3 weeks. Okay, well, Haley, I can certainly follow up with you in 3 weeks. And, regardless if we meet a week from now, 3 weeks from now, or even 3 months from now, is it fair to say that your primary goal is to net the most money possible from the sale? Most people would say, yeah. Great. Well, it makes more sense for us to meet sooner rather than later, wouldn't it? I've got availability at 4:30 or 6, which is better for you. Or I have a friend in the business. I can certainly appreciate that you have a friend in the business, Haley. And let me be honest with you. You do not owe me anything. You owe your friend your friendship, and you owe yourself the very best. Why don't we sit down for just 15 or 20 minutes and I can show you why so many people choose me to sell their homes?
I like that one.
Thank you.
I like that. I mean, that respects the relationship, but also is like, give me a chance here. I like it.
Yeah.
I did notice.
Go ahead. I have so many for sale by owners that like say they have a friend in the business and like turns out they didn't actually ever really want to use their friend anyways. It's just a, attempt to get me off the phone, and I end up listing the home. We have a great relationship. So don't I feel like that's like the big one that people are like, oh, okay, you have a friend in the business. Like, I'll just let your friend list your home. Yeah. But like, don't let that objection scare you. And you should probably have multiple objection handlers memorized for that specific script.
Nice. Do you have like a philosophy or like a general, like when you encounter objections, how you're overcoming them? Because I mean, it is the same objections over and over again, I'm sure. Maybe one time you'll hear something new or, but really it's the same. Do you have like a general like advice or principles that you can give agents about objection handling?
Absolutely. Yeah. So step number 1, listen to the objection. And you can't really actually truly listen to the objection if you are fumbling through your script book, looking for the objection handler. So, you have to have all of your main objections already memorized. Like you said, there's a kind of a general framework for any objection, even if you got one. I would say there's 6 that are most common, but really 2 to 3 that I get 90% of the time. But if you do not have that objection handler already memorized, then you can't actually listen to what they're saying. So step number 2 is to repeat the objection. So if you're saying, I have a friend in the business, Haley, I completely understand that you have a friend in the business. Most people do have at least somebody that they know that's a real estate agent, right? Probably multiple. So I'm repeating the objection, which is telling them that I understand where they're coming from. And then step number 3 is to question the objection. So, Haley, you owe your friend your friendship. You don't owe me anything, but you owe yourself the very best. Would it hurt to sit down for just 15 minutes and I can show you why so many people choose me to sell their homes? So we're bringing up a little bit of doubt in their mind of, questioning the objection a little bit. And then we're closing for the appointment is step number 4. I've got availability at 4:30 or 6 o'clock, which is better for you.
I like that. I like that it's pretty simple. In just our role play, it was pretty simple. I know because I made it a little easy on you. But also, like, your script is pretty straightforward, and it's really to just get the appointment. Am I wrong in assuming that?
Yes. Yeah. 100%. So it is not to show them, how we're netting them more money. It is to close for the appointment. And that's sometimes people will ask me too, well, how are you netting more money? Well, my appointment is visual, Haley. It just takes about 15 or 20 minutes to go over. I've got availability at 4:30 or 6 o'clock, which is better for you. So like the best way to be able to present that information is going to be in person. So I'm always just trying to set the appointment. And then of course I'll pre-qualify and make sure that that's an appointment that's worth going on. But initially it's just to get the appointment, like you said.
Yeah, because that's where the magic happens. Just get to the appointment. I think a lot of agents will get stuck on the phone giving them too much information. And if you give too much information, it's a lot easier to say no, right? Like, oh, okay, not interested, especially when you're not face to face. You don't have that rapport. You don't have like any of that. It's easy to get off the phone that way. So I like that, sticking to the appointment. That's awesome. You mentioned a little bit before also your follow-up schedule. And that was when people don't answer. But if people like tell you, oh, like maybe in a month or anything, do you have more follow-ups after that? Do you follow up before the appointment? Like tell me a little bit more about your follow-up schedule.
Yeah. So I have like specific 30-day, 60-day follow-up plans. I am religious about following up. In fact, I think in 2020, the year that I sold 50 homes, I went back and I looked through all of the numbers, and I think I would have missed out on about $225,000 that year in GCI had I not followed up. So follow-up is huge, and I see the value in it. So if we already talked about, like you said, if they didn't answer the phone, if they do, obviously I'm always really trying to handle every objection and close for an appointment, but let's be realistic. Not all the time does that happen. So I'm always sending them a text with my contact card, and there's a YouTube video that I had filmed as like a submission for NARS 30 under 30. I send them that. It's kind of just like a little bit more information on me. I also send them a text that's like, hey, this is Emily Peckham. It was so nice to meet you, Haley. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm going to, go ahead and save my contact card. I sent it to you above. That way, that it's me calling you and not one of these other crazy realtors. So I'll send them that. And then I have a very detailed follow-up plan. That's a lot of video follow-up. So I'll send like references from past clients. I'll just have them ask past clients to film like little 30-second videos of their experience in working with me. I'll send them one of those like every 2 to 3 days. But they're getting some form of touch via text, email, phone call every 2 to 3 days leading up until they list their home with me. And then if we have set an appointment, then I'm sending like, let's say we are meeting, 2 days from now. First of all, I'm always going to go on the appointment as quickly as I possibly can, within as soon as I can get there, essentially. So I'm always closing for that appointment, ideally that day or that next day if I can, and if they can. But let's say that it was 2 days from now that I'm going to send them that text with my contact card, the YouTube video, and then like the nice to meet you video. And then I'll also send them at least 3 to 4 reference videos before our appointment. I'll also send them a pre-listing presentation that's got a copy of the listing agreement in it. It's got comparables for them to review before we meet. And then it has a packet of information with references, all my past home sales, a short bio, my plan of action. So I'm sending them that pre-listing presentation before our appointment as well. The morning of our appointment, I'll send them a video that's saying, hey, it's Emily Peckham. I'm so excited to meet with you today. I'll see you at 4:30. I don't confirm appointments. I don't give them an out, but I do say I'll be there at 4:30. See you then. So it's just a ton of follow-up. I could probably talk on follow-up alone for 2 hours.
Oh, that's awesome. I think, because that is somewhere that agents really fall off. And it's interesting because like that stat you shared of how much money you wouldn't have made if you didn't follow up, like that is reason enough to figure your follow-up out and to make sure that you're doing it. And it's so true that is like where the money happens, and you just have to be consistent with it. And like that's with everything in real estate is consistency, right? I mean, when you were talking about how you called every single morning at 8 a.m. and then you're following up, like you just have a system. And even just you telling me all of the stuff that you do for follow-up, it's like okay, Emily has a system and it works for her. And I think that is awesome and something that agents can replicate and put into their business. We're running out of time here, but I did want to pitch a little bit of you and your class, because if people want to learn more, I know we just scratched the surface on so many things in the for sale by owner world. So I'll turn the time over to you to just tell them about your class and what's going on.
Yeah, so the week of June 10th, there's going to be 4 different classes that I'll teach. They're an hour each, and just all things for sale by owner. So I'll give you all some specific follow-up plans. We'll role play the script again and calling for sale by owners. There's just a ton of value in it. And then if you want to dive even deeper, then we have a 3-week, 2-hour per session. So there's 3 sessions, 1 per week. That's 2 hours. And gosh, there's everything that you could ever need to list for sale by owners. So I'll give you specific follow-up plans. I'll give you scripts, objection handlers, the listing appointment script. I mean, there's just tremendous value in it. It's everything that I have learned in listing over 150 for listing and selling over 150 for sale by owner homes at this point in my career. I've put hundreds and hundreds of hours into it. And I'm really excited. We did it back in March and people are already starting to get a ton of results. And then you can also join my Facebook group. It's Emily Peckham's FSBO mastermind group. And there's tons of great content in there that's totally free for y'all to go through and start listing for sale by owners.
Amazing. Yeah, we didn't even touch on listing presentations or anything like that. We just talked about getting on the phone and getting that appointment. So I'm sure you cover that as well, and everything in between. Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll have the link below if you want to sign up for that class happening on June 10th, right? Did I right date?
Yeah, there's actually 4. So it'll be June 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. So there's lots of options for signups.
Find a date that works for you. We'll have that below so that you can dive more into what Emily talked about today. Emily, I want to give you the last word here. Anything that you didn't share already, or advice or final words that you want to share with the audience before we jump off?
Gosh, I would just say, like, for sale by owners, there's such an excellent opportunity there. And if you choose to, number one, just get on the phone and take action and then follow up, you are going to set yourself apart from majority of real estate agents who get on the phone for a few days, decide it's not working, and stop. So I just think that for sale by owners are just such an excellent source of business. These are people who are raising their hand saying, come list my house. That's the mindset that you need to develop. So I just say, go get them.
I love it. Awesome. Emily, thank you so much for taking the time to come and share it with our audience today. Of course, we have a ton of for sale by owner lovers in our community. And so, of course, if you want to learn more about Emily, please sign up for her class. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so much more than what we could deliver in just 30 minutes today. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll see everybody next time. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you, Haley.
Thanks.